Hey guys, and welcome to episode 103. Please accept my humble apologies for my less than admirable upload rate lately. Uni and sickness happened and I wasn't really able to get as many videos in, sort of. I wasn't able to get as many commentaries in because I still have a buttload of footage that I want to turn in the future into the future episode. So don't worry about that too much, just keep in mind that I probably won't be able to keep too much of a very, busy schedule when it comes to the YouTube stuff in the future anymore. And besides what I'm doing in the Let's Play Park and things like that, I've still got my sort of quote-unquote normal ICT3 life and a lot of projects that I still want to finish and wrap up and actually make into some videos or release in some other way, because I have basically just been slacking on releasing anything lately. Also, ignore that really weird footage with these swans at the beginning of this video. I like to mess around with custom scenery once I just get my hands on it, and sometimes that turns into really awkward things. That is the one downside to streaming, I suppose, because most of the footage, I should add, not all of it, about 75% usually, or a bit more, of what I upload is recorded in live streams, and sometimes I do really stupid things in live streams. I try to actually keep it to doing just building stuff, not doing POVs whenever I want to do it and things like that, but sometimes I just can't help myself and do something really stupid. Also, this is one of those other sort of episodes, at least partly, in which I'm going to do some details. I was probably a lot better off trying to explain what this episode is going to be about at the beginning of the episode, not halfway through it. But fuck all that. We're halfway through it anyway now. The first half, or at least I think it's less than the first half of the video, is just gonna be detail placement. More things that I really just needed to get done that I still had left unfinished all around the park, because I am an idiot when it comes to things like that. That I really just needed to finish because I couldn't stand the look of all the unfinished parts of this park. But the second part of this video is actually gonna be me making a roller coaster, which is a very new thing that has never ever happened before. So, woo! I'm actually gonna build a roller coaster. I'm quite nervous. I haven't done this in a couple of years, so I've no idea how support sets work anymore or what roller coasters are like anymore. So it's gonna be quite interesting to see how good I will be at making that roller coaster at some point in time. But that is not happening yet. The real problem just is that I'm trying to stretch this entire commentary until the roller coaster actually gets built, because all this detail placement, honestly, there is not too much to add to it. It's just something that I can really recommend people to just do every once in a while. Even if you're not too big of a fan of it, just go back to your old stuff, skim through some new custom scenery sets that you've never even tried before, like what I'm doing at the moment over here with Pat's Carousel Palace, and see if there's any custom scenery pieces in there that you can really use for your buildings to just give them that very small unique touch. It doesn't necessarily have to add anything substantial to the building, but it should at least give you some more details on it that are gonna make it look a lot more unique and special than just a simple building using the same sets that everybody else has been using for the past couple of millenniums. And that's why I kind of wanted to do that at that point. And I think right here, with placing these last couple of ropes, that I figured, oh bummer, I'm gonna build my roller coaster, and there we go, it's actually gonna happen. I have to add that this in-game took me what was it, about 80 to 90 minutes to actually get my layout done, which was a sort of reasonable time. I like to do it a tiny bit quicker, but you'll see that there were a couple of problems. I started off still thinking that I wanted to do a B&M dive machine. I know that I have basically been screaming everywhere that I would be that mad crazy person who would actually build a B&M stand-up and theme it completely, but at this point I figured, I think a dive machine actually fits the English theme a lot better. There were just numerous problems with that I was kind of already having in the back of my head, that I was very worried about. I was very worried that this would become a Baron 1898 ripoff, which it was doomed to be eventually, because it was in England, of course, so it's gonna have that mining theme and it's gonna be way too similar. But the real reason why I actually did not go with this B&M dive machine idea is the fact that it just didn't work out in the layouts. And this was of course also a criticism that I got from my Shortleaf Lake Park, was that the B&M dive machine in that park was very similar to the Baron 1898 ripoff as well. I mean Baron 1898, and it was a ripoff of it, sort of. The problem is just there are no other smooth pieces that you can continue a B&M dive machine with, except for the fucking elements that the Efteling used in the Baron 1898. In any case, at this point I started making the B&M stand-up, and the first idea was actually to tuck the lift hill away into the back of the park, not make it too visible, build up some speed so I could actually do some more interactions with the paths over here. And the main sort of idea that I had is I wanted to get something special, some sort of signature elements that could be in the middle of this whole area, that could be sort of a centerpiece of this theme. And that would also have path interaction and scenery interaction. So the basic idea was to go down into the ground like 2 meters and have some nice flowers around that, have some cool paths with it, get some really nice shapes done on the ground. And this sort of Cobra is actually the centerpiece and the most important part of the ride. And you'll find eventually that I did change the lift hill, because the way it is right now, it just didn't work out with the speed of the ride. And the look, and having the station tucked away all the way at the back is also something that I didn't really wish to have too much. So I did change this a tiny bit, but what you can notice is that I did keep the signature Cobra roll, and the little curve around it that sort of almost goes underground, but it doesn't go underground completely, which brings me to a point that I might want to bring up. Some people, well, many people think it is a much better idea to start off with a signature element or very important part of your roller coaster before you start with the station. So even though it is the most common thing to start off with the station and just naturally build from there, it is also a very common tactic to start off with your biggest signature element, or the element that is the hardest to get into the environment, and then built around that. And that is actually sort of in hindsight what happened with this roller coaster as well. And it was really just the Cobra roll that I had to keep over there, and the rest was just improvisation. And as you can see, kind of, as soon as you've got the real basics down to a roller coaster, just finishing it up is usually not too hard. Especially with a B&M stand-up or B&M sit-down, where the end is usually just simple corkscrews, helixes, and some bunny hops. And I think this is actually the final layout of this thing. Actually no, almost. I still had to make it 1H higher, and there it is. I actually decided to actually do something which I think is the worst thing, or at least I like to proclaim that this is the worst possible thing that you can do with building a roller coaster, which would be turning on the what is it called? I don't even know anymore. Low friction, there we go. Turning on low friction is something that I have almost been like publicly against, and just really bad, I figured, because there's a couple of problems with low frictions that I have. Like, low friction is way too low friction. It is unrealistically low friction. Some coasters just seem to go on forever, and then you can clearly tell that somebody uses low friction, and it's almost like cheating at that point. And the second problem is that if you do want to make a realistic roller coaster with a somewhat alright speed with low friction, is that you're going to have to be able to fit brake runs in everywhere to perfectly regulate the speed of the coaster, which is eventually what I had to settle with this thing, so I would have the perfect speed. It did make it without low friction, but with the low friction I was just able to regulate the speed a tiny bit better, get it over the hills and through the elements at a perfect pace, and that's just kind of what I wanted to get there. So that's why I used that in the end. And here you can see the terraforming kind of coming together. The basic idea is to have a bit of like the terraforming, not be smooth terraforming as you would normally have it, but have it be walls, and on the sides of those walls, because I think I explained it in a very vague way before, there are going to be walls alongside the tracks that are kind of sunken into the ground. Next to those walls I'll have some planters with flowers and luxurious foliage, and next to that is going to be where the paths are at, and hopefully in the end that all results in a pretty neat looking area. At least that's all the planning I really had. So far everything in this park is pretty unplanned. It's really just kind of plans in the back of my head, but in hindsight I have to say that I think this is actually the best working theme so far, at least in terms of the layout of the theme overall. But you guys will see that in the future. In any case, I see that I'm running out of time. I think I'm gonna have to say goodbye over here. You can basically see the basic planning in the terraforming over there. The light brown is going to be paths and the grey is going to be buildings basically, and flat rights. That's how it works. In any case, I'm really going to have to end it here, so thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys next episode.